we could ever have in the world of national security is a vulnerability. And that is an Achilles heel, if you will, of our national security apparatus. And especially when you're talking about nuclear weapons, that is part of the nuclear triad, is really the crown jewels of our country. That is the one thing that, and some people argue, obviously it's a terrible technology. Other people argue it's the only thing that's been keeping the peace for this long because it's assured mutual destruction. Anytime there's a perceived vulnerability in our national security structure, in this case, our nuclear readiness, the government is going to be very, very, very loath to acknowledge that publicly, because you're broadcasting to the enemy that, hey, look, if this can happen with UFOs, maybe Russia has the ability to do it as well, and we don't want to let Russia know that. So there is a huge concern to ever discuss any type of vulnerability we have. But you know what, Linda, you're absolutely right. And I know it for a fact because I've seen the intelligence reporting on the Maelstrom incident. But, equally concerning is that even some people may argue, well, they turned them offline. They're showing that, nuclear weapons aren't very, very useful for mankind. And yet in Russia, the exact opposite happened. In fact, there was an event where these nuclear weapons were actually brought online. So imagine how scary that is.
Right.
Now you have a potential runaway freight train and the start of World War III potentially. So, and then there's I'll share with you, I've never shared this publicly, and I want to be very careful not to go into too much detail, but there is allegedly, we're tracking this down, there was an incident involving a U.S. nuclear aircraft carrier in the early 70s, I won't say which one, that encountered a UFO, and it brought the entire aircraft carrier offline for a while. And this was a nuclear powered aircraft carrier. So it's a big deal. And yes, you're right. We are seeing interference and interest, whatever interest it may be, by these UAPs around nuclear technologies. There's a book written by Robert Hastings. It's about the relationship the United States and the world has had with nuclear technology and the UAP phenomenon. It's very compelling. And by the way, it's very accurate. So you're right. There's a connection. We are aware of it in the national security arena. I think that's probably why Congress is taking this so seriously.